Alrighty, well I'm no real expert on women, but I would say I'm a bit of an expert on men, having been one for quite a number of years. So in case any young lasses trip along this video in between watching dodgy e-beggars, I got some brilliant words of advice for you for finding a good man. Now, first of all, finding men, it's a bit like mechanic syndrome. It's always very easy to find a mechanic who will rip you off, who will replace parts on your car that don't need replacing, and waste your time and waste your money. And you can go to the dealership or you can go to the nearest car place you see, but often enough these mechanics that are convenient, these car dealerships that are there with huge big blooming signs up and all that sort of stuff, well, yeah, they rip you off. But see, they're easy to find. The ones that are easy to find are usually the arseholes. It goes for mechanics and it goes for finding boyfriends. The long and short of it is that it's hard to find a good one, but you can get a few steps ahead at finding a good one. So how do you find a good mechanic? Well, it's easy, at least for me. You go and find car enthusiasts and you talk to them about who is a good mechanic. You don't find people who have mates who are mechanics because they will tell you to go to their mate to give him a bit of money. You find car enthusiasts who have gone to stacks of different mechanics and exhaust places and windscreen places and all these other different things, and they'll tell you who rips you off and who fucks you around and who doesn't. Now with men, well, I'll go to the place where all the other girls are going. No, that's where the arseholes are, where the predators are, where the dickheads and the players are, is where all the girls are going. Because the players know that they go there and they'll easily find girls. Don't do that. Go to a place that's a club that is specifically male type of thing. Steam enthusiasts. Maybe even car enthusiasts. Go and find clubs and events and places that are almost entirely male dominated. And you may say, well, I'm going to be ravaged because I'm surrounded by males. So you'd be surprised. There's plenty of guys in the engineering clubs and steam enthusiast clubs, and no, they're not the sort of guys that ravage girls. Oh, but they're the nerds. They're sitting there with their pencils behind their ears and their pocket protectors, and they make their own sandwiches from. I didn't say you had to marry a nerd, but just go to these places and you'll get to know quiet, sincere, honest guys who don't want to stick it in every hole, unless we're talking about pipe cleaners for steam equipment. You know what I'm getting at. You might be surprised and even slightly shocked that you will find a highly sincere guy there, and you won't find. You'll find heaps of old guys, but you might find a few young guys, and some of them will, surprise you. This is the thing. You hang around male-dominated places, and you'll be surprised at who you can find, and there won't be arseholes. Secondarily, guys are simple. They mean what they say, and they say what they mean, and if something needs to be said, they'll say it. It's all this sort of a double fucking think, you should have known how I felt, bullshit, all this passive-aggressive stuff, all these mind games, all these, you're supposed to read my mind and know that I didn't feel this, that. Hey, well, what the fuck? Don't go like that. Guys can't read minds, and a vast heap of guys, I'm not saying all guys, but a fair heap of guys can't even read body language. Don't think that they should have known that you felt like this, therefore they should have come and done this or done that. Don't start on that shit. You start on that shit, it looks like you're going insane. And it's only a matter of time. You only need 2 or 3 insane moments, and that's it. They're freaking gone, you know. And this is the thing, you know. They're not mind readers. Hell, most of them ain't even body language readers. So get that shit out of your mind, and, you know, you're going to have to be fairly direct, and it's just the way it is. With those 2 things, you'll go far, just on that, just based on that, you know. And this sort of bullshit that you're just going to click your fingers and get Mr. Magical, forget about it. That's my 3rd point. I don't know how many girls, and I've known of girls like this who, you know, they're, well, quite frankly, they're lower middle class, overweight, and not great looking, and they put a bit of peroxide in their hair and they think they're Pamela Anderson. Don't go for that shit. Don't believe that shit. You know, see yourself for who you are, and don't sort of start with a whole, there's actually a name. There's actually a scientific name for it. There's a name out there that occurs in society, in Western society with white women, where they basically will never consider a guy who's on their level. They are only ever looking for a guy of higher wealth, better looks, and a higher social standing and more money and that sort of shit. Don't kid yourself. Don't kid yourself. If you're out there looking for guys who are 6'2" or taller, like me, I'm 6'1½", but getting there. That brings you down to 3% of the population, 3% of the male population. 3 in 100 males are 6'2" or taller. If you're going to sit there going, oh, okay, I want a guy who's 6'2" or taller, well, automatically you've knocked out 97% of men. And that's before you even start taking off the ones that are married in that last 3%. Then you want a millionaire. Well, yeah, well, you're down to about a 1 in 1,000, of which 99.95% of those are, so what you're saying is, you'll find one, but, you know, at this point we're down to like 1 in 20,000 men who is a multi-millionaire and is over 6'2" and is single. 1 in 20,000. Wake the fuck up, alright? They ain't going to be Mr. Perfect, right? The last thing I would suggest is, I'll suggest something inside of this. Do look at black women who are dating experts, because they know what the fuck they're talking about, believe it or not. Don't go listen to your friends claptrap about this, that, this. It's all fucking self-biased bullshit in most cases. But black women who are dating experts, they seem to know so much straight about men that is just captain obvious to men. You know, it's just so obvious. They do have a lot of the answers. Now, that wasn't going to be my 4th one, but my 4th one will be this. The 4th one, which incidentally I got from a black girl, and it doesn't surprise me. It took me a little while, you know, I sort of, when she said it, I realised that I've seen it before, but I wouldn't really have recognised it until she sort of said it. And that is, some of the biggest troubles women face are they're trying to date a list, which ties into what I was saying about, you know, Mr. 6'2" and a millionaire. It brings you to 1 in 1,000, and then you want one single, well then you're 1 in 20,000, you know. A list is some bullshit set of parameters that has automatically shot you in the foot 20 times over. You just about shot every toe off of your feet by trying to go for an exact list, because a list is not a man. A man is a man, and he may have little traits and little quirks and this and that, but if you're just, well, I'm going to just set this list and then I'm going to see any men that come on that list, oh, forget it. Get a general idea, you know, of what you're after. And that should be on the top of your head. Just off the top of your head, you should know, okay, I don't want someone who's, you know, drug addict or this or that or whatever. But if you're going to write out a big list and then mark everything off the list, guess what? You'll miss out on guys with fantastic traits, great things. You know, always loving, always kind, and a whole stack of other things that you always wanted in a man that you didn't know men even had, because you never gave enough guys that chance, because you decided that just because they weren't the right height, or just because you don't like brown eyes, then you cut them off. Or they're a little bit too, you know, this or that, or, oh, well, I don't like it, bang. You've chopped out so many guys on your list that if you had met them, talked to them, considered them as a real person, you would have accepted them. But you never got to that point because they didn't meet criterions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And let's be honest, data and figures and research out there says that most girls have between 10 to 12 different requirements of a man. That's their little list. You know what men have? 2 or 3. That's it. So anyway, that's just a bit of advice. You know, we are human. We're not a list. And we're not superhuman. And we can't read your mind. And we are fairly simple. But in essence, just because we're simple doesn't mean we're stupid. But in essence, make the most of the fact that guys are what they are. Not try to make the most of a feature that we don't have. And keep in mind that we are simple to please and don't like complications and bullshit. And if you can consider those two facts and work on them as positive points and get what you can out of men being simple, straightforward, uncomplicated creatures, not necessarily stupid, make the most of that versus trying to make the most of trying to find a guy with a feature that just guys are not built to have. So anyway, I think that about rounds it up, and happy hunting.